Board of Education tax rate hearing meeting 1622 is now called to order. We'll turn it right over to Joel Scheibel.
It's that time of year when we get to have a little pre-meeting meeting. This is a very important part of the year for our budget. It's a time when we have a public hearing so that our taxpayers can comment on the proposed tax rate for the ensuing school year. So I have just a small presentation. Won't get too technical with it. If you have questions about the details, you can always contact me for more information. But pretty much, St. Louis County Assessor's Office is responsible for accurately classifying and valuing all property in the district. We have agricultural, residential, commercial, and personal property in the district. And then the Board of Equalization is a St. Louis County committee that reviews any protest to property taxes while the tax is still at St. Louis County. So as of right now, we have received assessed value data from St. Louis County. It is a reassessment year, so we do get the data in March as an estimate, and then we receive data in July, and those are both preliminary. Sometime this week or early next week, we'll receive the final assessed valuation data that is after BOE. BOE is Board of Equalization. Again, when taxpayer has a protest on their taxes, they think it's overvalued or whatever, they have an opportunity to remedy that with St. Louis County, and that's the Board of Equalization. Not all of the protests get remedied at St. Louis County level, and there's a point when they draw the line in the sand and they say, okay, we're done trying to negotiate the protest, we're going to pass those on to the State Tax Commission, and that is when they will send us the values. So what happens, next slide. What happens if the protest or the assessed values change after it goes to the state? Then there's opportunities to amend our tax rate in future years. Right now, the St. Louis County releases all the protested taxes to us each May, and if they're settled in a different manner, then we'll have to pay those back to the county. So in December, we will really get a final assessed valuation, and that will be after any state commission protest settlements. But protests could be on the book for a year, 2 years, 5 years, so it's not like they all get settled before December. So this is always updating protest data. Next slide. So based on the data we have right now, we have seen a growth in assessed valuation in our district. This is a reassessment year. As assessment grows, we're required to roll the tax rates back. That's the Hancock Amendment with the state of Missouri that says taxpayers really protect them from large increases in assessed valuation. If the assessed valuation spikes, then the levy has to go back until you release a certain point. So as our residential levy has already reached the state minimum of $275. So even though AV goes up, we cannot roll back any further. The penalty for rolling back under $275 is not getting your state aid, which is $10 to $11 million a year for us, and that's not something that we would look into doing. So residential has been at the $275 for a few years. This year, agricultural AV went up, assessed valuation. We have not much agricultural assessed property in our district. And so the small ones that are there, I think Grants Farm is ag, and then the Hymos property was ag that I think now the Hoffmans own. So I have a feeling that when that was transferred in the sale that somehow the ag value doubled, which was not a very large amount, but they're now at $275 because again, they're protected by a large increase in assessed valuation. Commercial property also went up, and so we're rolling that rate back from $339 till $308. So again, AV's up, roll the levy back. Personal property stays pretty consistent, and then the debt service, of course, is a different rate we set with a different calculation, and we have kept that at 83.5 cents. And we have promised the taxpayers to keep that at that level. Okay, next slide. Again, this is just another quick summary or slide of just what I explained. We get the maximum, each year, we get the maximum of actual growth, which is inflation, or CPI, which CPI is, well, actual growth is assessed valuation, actual growth. We get actual growth, or we get CPI, which is inflation, or 5%. The increase in the levy can never be greater than 5%. Next slide. It's a tiny, tiny slide. Nobody can read it, I know, but it's a great history of the cycle that we go through on reassessment and non-reassessment years. Pretty much over the last 10 years, assessed valuation in the district has grown, and so on our reassessment years, we're always rolling back. So if I look at this in 16-17, our total levy was at 445, and at this point, we're, based on the data we have from St. Louis County right now, our levy is gonna be, the blended rate is 376, and that is because our assessed valuation has grown. In summary, debt service levy, next slide, will remain at 83.3 cents. The blended operating levy, and I use the term blended, St. Louis County is the only county in Missouri that has to set levies by classifications. So we have to set individual levies for personal, agricultural, commercial, and residential. And then we have a blended levy that is the average, something like the average of all of those, which compares to what other districts have across the state who set one levy. We're looking at a collection rate. Our protested tax collections are up from 2 years ago. If you remember, we had a lot of protests in the last couple of years. That collection rate has gotten a little bit better, so we're estimating about 98% collection rate. Overall, our tax base is very strong. Like I said, the tax rate has decreased since 2016 by 68 cents, and that's solely because the values in our district continue to rise. And always a reminder that the district is at the lowest residential rate possible in Missouri, which is 275. So that's what I have. I asked Andrea if we had anybody sign up to ask questions about the tax rate setting. We did post this rate in local places in our community, both the city of Sunset Hills, city of Crestwood, high school, other local places, so that people could view the estimated tax rate. And I had not had any calls on that either. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. We are now at the public comment portion of the tax rate hearing, but we've reviewed the sign-up form, and there appears that no one has signed up to ask any questions or speak at this time. So we'll continue with our scheduled agenda, which takes us to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn special board meeting of Education 1622?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Andy and a second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.